The following is an original production of AZPM News.
The only thing that you really need to have like a career in science or a career in almost anything is to just want to do it. People get pushed out by a variety of things. All of those people are wrong and jerks, and like really all that matters is like, do you like the subject? Are you interested in it? Do you like the work? If the answer is yes, then like that's what you should do.
This is Speaking Personally, filmed on location at the Paul and Alice Baker Center for Public Media.
Hi, and welcome. I'm Tom McNamara, along with our guest, Dr. Erika Hamden, who is a colleague of ours. You're the host of New Frontiers on Arizona Public Media, a science-oriented show. You are also a very accomplished person, Erika. I'll do your mini resume right here. Astrophysicist. You're the professor and director of the U of A Space Institute. You're involved in a number of telescope projects here at the U. Many followers on Instagram, and you have a book called Weird Universe that we need to know a lot more about. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's such a treat to be here.
You and I have something in common. We both have New Jersey roots. And I want you to start off by taking us back in time to when you were 5, 6, 7 years old, living in Montclair, New Jersey with 4 sisters. Mom was a science teacher. Biology?
Yeah.
Dad was a science teacher, chemistry? Physics.
Yeah.
So you had it covered. How did this little girl from Montclair, New Jersey segue from the all-American life with a great family all the way up to the heights that you've reached?
My parents are both really smart, and like also because there were so many of us, they were kind of like, you got to figure your own stuff out. Like, we don't have any time. So it was like, I spent a lot of time as a kid, like in my own head and like, just like thinking about things or like daydreaming. And, you know, they would take us to the library. I was always trying to like get more books to read once I learned how to read. And it was also like, weirdly, I think a golden age of like public television, ironically, maybe not ironically, but I used to watch all these shows on PBS, and I like learned how to program the VCR as like a 8-year-old so that I could record my space shows. There was one that was narrated by Tom Selleck that I like really loved, and there was this other show that was like originally on the BBC that got rebroadcast on PBS in the 80s. That was about kind of like technology, and I don't know what it was exactly. It just like drew me in, and my mom. It was just like a random day, and I was like sitting in our TV room watching PBS probably, and she came in and she said, "Oh, there's a news story that scientists want a better name for the Big Bang, and there's a contest. Like, you should enter the contest." And I was like, "What's the Big Bang?" And she was like, "I'm cooking dinner. Go look it up." So I went upstairs to our encyclopedia because it was the 80s, and like everything was in physical form.
That's right.
So I looked up the Big Bang, and then I like looked up other stuff about space, and then the last book in the encyclopedia was an atlas, and it had like maps of the US and the world, but then it had at the very back of the atlas there was a map of the solar system, and then the next page was a map of the galaxy, and then the next page was a map of the known universe. And I remember like looking at the map of the known universe, and I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever seen. And from then on, I used to tell people like, oh, I'm gonna be an astronaut or I'm gonna be a chef. I remember when Hubble launched and like the Voyager flybys of the outer solar system planets and like all these like particular events in my childhood, I like remember through what space thing was happening. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like I'm so fortunate that my, family was like, okay, do whatever you want. As I went through school, I was really good at math and science. It just like was how my brain kind of worked. And I also was fortunate because I had so many sisters. And the teachers in school would see the last name on the roster and they'd be like, oh, you're a Hamden. And so I never had a teacher that was like, oh, maybe you wouldn't be good at this or maybe you're not smart. They just had already had my sisters. We were a smart, diligent family.
Stamp of approval.
Yeah. And so like, I talk to people now and they're like, oh, I love space or I loved physics. But then I had a teacher that told me I should do something else, or they kind of got like pushed off their interest. And I think that I just was lucky to have not had that and to actually had a really supportive, like the school system in Montclair, New Jersey was like really lovely and supportive and like really interested in like the students as whole people. And so that was also a really nice kind of very, very nurturing environment to grow up in.
This burning desire to become an astronaut led you to MIT
Yes.
for a while. And
yeah.
that,
So I, like also in my childhood, like I remember Apollo 13 came out, and that was the soundtrack to Apollo 13 was the first CD that I bought. Right. It wasn't like Backstreet Boys. It's like Apollo 13.
Okay.
I actually had like a whole plan. I was like, oh, I'm going to go to MIT, get a degree in aerospace engineering. I'm going to be an astronaut. Then I will like run for Senate. Cause even back in the 80s, there were astronauts who would run for office. And I was like, oh, I'm going to have just
even
this,
today.
Yes, exactly. Like we love Mark Kelly. And so because I knew that MIT had the most astronauts for a military institution. Okay. A lot of astronauts actually go to like the Naval Academy or the Air Force Academy, but I was like, oh, MIT, like that's the place. And so I worked really hard in high school. I got into MIT and Caltech. I was the first person from my high school to get into Caltech, and my parents were like, don't go to California, it's too far away. So I went to MIT, and then actually I hated it. And I just had like a really difficult time going from this like very close-knit family and like a really supportive school environment to like kind of a harsh, like you're on your own university environment. And I really need, like when I think about it now, I'm like, oh, I really need to kind of grow up and like take agency of my own choices and activities, and it just took a while for me to kind of figure that out. So I ended up leaving. It was the Monday after Thanksgiving that I basically, and like MIT, it might be better now, but at the time they didn't really have the capacity to deal with someone that I was having like anxiety and just like a lot of like issues that I'd never had before. And their solution was like, why don't you just go home and like we'll take your name off everything, give you your money back. Like as a kid, I had felt like partly how I stood out among my sisters was to be like, oh, I'm like achieving all this stuff. And I had really felt like people love me for my achievements and not just because like I'm a person who deserves love. And so that experience of dropping out of MIT and then being like, oh, all these people still love me. My parents still love me. The sun rises in the morning and the universe like continues on, indifferent to like this little tragedy. But that was, it was a super important growth experience for me because I kind of felt like, oh, I had to like rebuild myself in a way that was like, it doesn't matter what I do, or if I never do anything, that like, I'm like a valuable, important person, as is everybody.
Well, before we segue to that far different area that you moved into right after MIT, were you letting go of the astronaut dream at that point? Or was there any despondency about that? Or were you just...
I mean, it was more of just like, oh, I just felt really sad about being like a college dropout.
Yeah.
And like not like the cool kind that are like doing a startup or whatever. I was just like, oh, I just couldn't hack it. It was the best thing that I've done, maybe. Like it was such a foundational time for me, and it made me think a lot about like why did I go to MIT? Why did I make these choices? Like why did I think I needed to be in certain classes or act a certain way or like not do things my own way? And so then afterwards I've tried to make choices that's like, what do I actually want? And like what is interesting to me, and like and what will be fun and engaging, and not really thinking necessarily about like, oh, what is this going to lead me to 10 years from now, but more like, what am I going to like right at this moment?
And you sought solace in the moment in food.
Yes.
In that moment in life, right? Tell us about that.
Well, so I, after I dropped out of MIT, I actually worked at a Borders bookstore, and I like worked in the cafe and learned how to make like lattes and coffee drinks and stuff. Okay. But my cooking came after I went back to college. And then after I finished my undergrad degree, then I went to cooking school, and then I worked as a chef for a while. Right,
you finished Harvard.
Yeah.
And then you went to not just any cooking school, you did it up right.
Yeah, so I went to Le Cordon Bleu in London. Yeah. I thought about going to the one in Paris, which is where Julia Child went. And that summer when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I knew I didn't want to go straight into grad school. And, back when I was a kid, I would tell people I'll be an astronaut or a chef. So I was like, okay, let's give the other career path a try. Yeah. And I read this this autobiography of Julia Child that was called My Life in France. And she talks about going to the cooking school and like learning, because she didn't know how to cook until she was in her 40s. So I enrolled in the kind of basic, the first term course on cooking. I found an American family that was living in London that wanted an au pair. So I like lived with this family and watched their 2 kids. And it was convenient because one of the kids went to school like down the street from where the cooking school was. So we would ride the bus together. I'd drop him off, go to cooking school, and then come back, go home, make dinner for the family. And like, it worked out really nicely.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, before we go further, have you given up on that broader dream of being in space, preparing great food in space? Does that astronaut dream still live inside and being pursued?
Yeah. So I've applied 4 times to be an astronaut. It used to be back in the 80s when the space shuttle was like really going, they would ask for applications every year, and the class would be like 30 people accepted per year. And now it's every 4 years. So since 2012, basically every opportunity I put an application in.
Okay.
But the flip side is like if my whole life were centered around being an astronaut, I probably would have made slightly different choices. Like, the astronaut program wants people who have like been to Antarctica, or who, fly jets for a living, or who are like who do like kind of more high stakes things. And sometimes I think that they don't necessarily like science PhDs because we can tend to be difficult people or can be difficult people. Because like you want to think through like, why am I doing all these things? And like, what's the right way to do this? Or what's the best decision here? And like, sometimes when you're an astronaut, you just need to like do the thing that you're told to do. And like there was a mission in the 80s, maybe it was the 70s, where there were 3 astronauts on this little space station. They were all PhDs, and they unionized while they were up there.
Seriously?
Yes, because they were like, you're working us too hard. We need breaks. We need
We want tenure. Yeah, up here.
I got a pilot's license a couple years ago. And actually the time that I applied after that, this most recent time, my references were checked for the first time. So I like made the first cut of highly qualified people. Okay. So, and I like have a scuba license, but I know people who have made it all the way to kind of the final round or close to the final round, where they're like deciding between 50 people. All of those people who were astronomers, they went to Antarctica and spent a year in Antarctica, like a winter, which is really a big commitment.
Yes.
And partly I like love my job building telescopes and like the work that I do, that I'm like, I don't want to spend a year in Antarctica, even if it would mean that I would make it farther in the process. I'm like, I got to do what I love, and I would like to go to Antarctica because it seems really cool, but I don't want to live there for a year and like put my whole life on hold.
Antarctica's #1 on my bucket list, just to interject, but I picture more of a cruise ship experience than a winter.
Not like a winter
shore.
In the South Pole where you don't see the sun for 6 months.
So I won't try for astronaut, but will you try again?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, keep trying and keep trying.
There's no age limit.
Yeah.
And it's something that I want to, like, even the first time that I applied, I just felt like I just want to do the best that I can, give it a try. And like the outcome, and I've learned that this applies to a lot of other things, where it's like, I can only control the things that I'm doing, like what I write in the application, like what I do in my free time. And then you send it out into the world. And like, after that, you just have to be like, well, see what happens. But like, I try not to be too wedded to the outcome, and instead just want to be like, oh, I'm going to make the best thing that I can.
So in your professional life, you focused on telescopes, no pun intended, or maybe a little bit.
A little.
But that's your bailiwick, and it's no small feat. And in conjunction with that, that's sort of the means to the end of an astrophysicist, if I understand it right. An astrophysicist wants to know not so much where something is way up there in space, but what it is.
Yes.
Tell us about that fascination.
Part of why I like cooking and telescopes is because you are dealing with like a physical object, and you're like making a thing. In a lot of other parts of astronomy or just like other scientific fields, you're like dealing with data that's just like a grid of numbers on in a file on a computer, or like simulations, which is just a different grid of numbers in a file on a computer. But I actually like I want to like touch something and like put something together and like have something that I can like see and manipulate. So when I was in college, there's the degree program and you take certain classes. And for our senior year, the last year of the degree, you have to do some type of like senior thesis project. And so I had only recently discovered that, there's a person who builds the telescope or who builds the instrument or the spectrograph or the camera or whatever, which like now I'm like, of course there has to be a person that does it. My very first like telescope trip was to go to the MMT, which is on a mountain that's south of Tucson, that Harvard has like a partial share on the time. And I was like, oh, this is great. I like love, they're these huge machines and they're like actually, in some sense they're simple, like the optics itself, it's not powered. It is just big pieces of glass and you're just like manipulating the light. But the rest of it, like how you balance it, how you make sure that it's pointing correctly, how you know where you're looking, like all of that stuff is all these like little problems to be solved. And I just think it's so fun. It was actually a very smart career move because a lot of people in astronomy, they're like theorists. They do simulations, they do calculations, or they're observers, and they like use the data to figure out like what the object is made out of or what the process is that's happening. But there's actually very few people that build the thing. And that's basically why I'm here at the University of Arizona, because the astronomy department here is one of the best in the world, maybe the best in the world, at hardware, at building telescopes that either are on the ground or go to space. And so when I was applying for faculty positions, this was by far the best place that I got a job. And it's been really nice to be in a department of people who kind of get the importance of actually building the telescope.
Some scientists will work their entire lives on a project, on finding out about something up there or way out in space or a galaxy or what have you, and they may not live long enough to reach a finish line. If it all went away tomorrow, do you have that sort of professional satisfaction deep in your soul?
Yeah, so, and that actually comes out of my experience at MIT, where I felt like, oh, the end is never promised. Like, I could get hit by a bus tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I would feel like, oh, well, I had a great day today and yesterday and the day before. And like, I did work that was interesting. And I also think that, it's hard to know what's going to matter in 50 years or 20 years. And so I also think about it as like, the work that I do now, maybe someone will find it and be like, oh, this little thing, I want to take that and put it in something bigger or like expand on it or add to it. And
this is not another pun as far as you know, but women in certain fields shatter the glass ceiling. In your field, you shatter the stratosphere. Tell us about being a woman in what has been, I have to imagine, traditionally male, achieving the success you have and being in that galaxy of elite scientists.
I've been able to find mentors and like supporters who aren't really concerned about whether I'm a woman or a man, or like I'm just like a person that they care about. And also for me, I take a certain attitude of I'm taking all your comments at face value when I'm like just out in the world. Like if you want me to get some like subtle beneath the surface point, you're gonna have to say it out loud to me. And if you don't, then I'm just gonna like keep operating the way that I wanna do things. So that's actually been very helpful because a lot of the sexism is a lot more like under the surface, or like, oh, she's difficult or whatever. And I'm just like, I'm gonna do exactly what I wanna do all the time. And like, if you don't like it, you'll have to like really be explicit about that. I do a very specific type of work that is pretty rare, and I know that, and I also know there's lots of other jobs I could have. And so in that kind of bigger context, I'm like, oh, I can get away with whatever I want. I like don't have to follow the rules that some other person is trying to get me to do. I can just do things as I want to. And yeah, now I like try to apply, like to teach that to the people that work with me, or to like be supportive of the people that are kind of coming up behind me. And if we lived in like a perfectly egalitarian society, like what would I be doing? But honestly, I'm like pretty happy with with how things are right now.
Yeah. You're very easy to talk with about what can be a very intimidating title, astrophysicist, you know. Is that something you have to work at, or is it just natural for you?
When I was younger, like I'd be on airplanes and sometimes people want to talk to you and I'm on the airplane. I'm always like, I just want to like read my book. But if the person seemed nice, I would tell them I was an astronomer. And if I didn't want to talk to them, I would tell them I was an astrophysicist, because astrophysicist is like ends the conversation. But astronomer, they're like, oh, what do you study? What do you look at? And like, but I also, as I've gotten like farther along in my career, I feel like as a scientist, I actually have this intense obligation to the rest of society. And first, I want people to know that scientists are also people, and that and people think like all scientists are Einstein, or like they have this idea of like a solitary genius,
lofty,
like
solitary,
coming up with something, and that's never how it works. And like even with Einstein, that wasn't how it worked. Like Einstein was very much in a community, in a time and a place where all these ideas were like bubbling up, and if it hadn't been him, there would have been someone else, And so I want people to know, like, oh, the people that do this work, we're just like ordinary people, and you know, we can be like smart at something, but that doesn't actually make us smart at other things. And so I think it's important to kind of make it feel accessible. And now as I have more of like kind of an active social media, one of the things that I want to teach people is that I really believe that anybody can learn anything if they want to, and if they have a teacher that is willing to like explain it to them. Yeah. So much of the kind of body of knowledge that we've accumulated as humans can feel like shut to an average person, and I hate that. You know, society suffers that scientists like have kind of retreated into the lab, or like aren't really out there talking to people and showing that like, hey, it's awesome. It doesn't have to be like a slog. It can be great.
But they are, you have 125 followers on Instagram at last count.
125,000.
Did I say 125,000? And a book called Weird Universe.
Yes.
What's so weird about it, and what should we know about it?
Everything is weird about the universe.
Yeah.
So as I make these videos on social media, I'm trying to explain, you know, like a black hole in 90 seconds to the general public, which is a fun challenge. I really like doing it. But I realized, like, you know, as humans, we want things to be familiar, and we kind of take what we know about how like stuff works on the surface of the Earth, and throughout the history of astronomy, we're always like, what if this thing in space is exactly like the Earth? Like for thousands of years, we thought that the sun was made out of the same material as the Earth, except it was just on fire. Like, why? We don't know.
Why aren't we on fire?
Like, of course, the sun is not made out of the same stuff as the Earth. It's like mostly hydrogen and helium. But I just noticed that, like, in all these kind of times where we discovered something new, our first thought would be like, oh, maybe this is exactly like the Earth. And instead, I think it's great that the universe is so weird and different and unusual and surprising, and part of that story also is one of, you know, if like you build a telescope, like Galileo looking through a telescope was the first person to like point it up at the sky. And then you're like, oh, the Earth isn't the center of the universe. And in fact, the sun is the center of the solar system, but the sun isn't even the center of the universe, and that the universe is gigantic and it's full of all these different types of stars and all this strange stuff. And so I really wanted to convey that like, I think the universe is really funny and you know, weird. And so it like seemed like a really obvious title.
It's weird to those of us who weren't science majors. Yeah, which is most people.
Yes. It's weird. You know? It should be weird to the science majors too. Like if you really think about like the concept of how like there's nothing in space for the most part, like just a vacuum with like one particle. Mm-hmm. Like how unusual. Really, the title should be like Ordinary Universe, Weird Earth, because like everything here is what is
right out
of the ordinary.
Yeah. What's left now? What keeps you awake at night? What's burning in your soul still as far as what you want to accomplish?
Oh, so many things.
Yeah.
Yeah, like professionally, I still have telescopes that I want to build, and really it's observations that I want to make, and like things that I want to know. I like want to know the sun formed out of this big cloud of hydrogen, and we have like a nice story about like how stars form in a galaxy and anywhere. But actually, like all the details of that story are unknown. Like, how does the cloud condense? Like, what are the conditions? Like, why does one cloud make stars and one cloud doesn't? So there's stuff like that, or like how galaxies form out of the kind of hydrogen formed in the Big Bang. And I find I have all these questions about like the formation of things. Like I like a star. Yeah. I like the galaxy. They're very beautiful, but I actually don't care once they're made. I like want to know how they got to be. So that question of like, how do you make a galaxy? How do you make our galaxy and our star? Like, if 40 years from now we have even half of an answer, I'll be like, oh, great, we did it. We're doing it. So that the scientific questions are still there's still a lot of them. And the more that you know, the more questions like bubble up. So that's, I'm expecting that to never go away. And then on the more kind of like public outreach side, or like talking to people, like I think about the shows that really inspired me as a kid, and the kind of like that accessibleness of like being able to just turn on my television and see something. Mm-hmm. I like want to give that to other people, and I also want to kind of help. Maybe all of my goals are just like totally gigantic, but I want society as a whole to understand like a little bit more about how science works, and the process of like discovering something and figuring it out, and like the kind of highly fallible nature of it, that people usually only hear about the end product, that like, oh, something has been discovered. They don't hear about the like 5 years of time where the person was messing things up and figuring things out and talking to other people and like doing this and that. And so I would like people to know a little bit more of just like the process of science, because that's what gives them like the modern world. And I think I like want people to better be able to connect like this process that feels like it happens somewhere else, in a lab hidden away somewhere, but to have them like really understand a little bit more about how it works and not be so suspicious of it.
Erika, is there anything else you'd like to impart about your life or your career before we part today?
I want to give, people that might be watching this like a little bit of advice. And I tell everyone like all advice is bad. Like but
it's free.
Yeah, it's free. You could but like take this or leave it if it resonates. The only thing that you really need to have like a career in science or a career in almost anything is to just want to do it. And especially in science and like the kind of more technical fields, like people get pushed out by a variety of things. And like you just have to like all of those people are wrong and jerks. And like really all that matters is like, do you like the subject? Are you interested in it? Do you like the work? And that and if the answer is yes, then like that's what you should do. And like, whether you're like smart enough or whatever is like almost irrelevant or not really part of it. It's like, are you willing to put in the time? And yeah, I like talk to my students, and especially the undergrads who are kind of trying to figure out what their lives are going to be. And I tell them to like think about like what's really in their heart, and like what gets them up in the morning that they're excited about. And like, that's the thing, even if it's not going to make you money necessarily, or like you feel like you don't know how to get there, but that like really being honest about like what is the thing in your brain that like excites it, and then going for that, and not letting yourself be diverted from it. Mm-hmm.
Passion leads to success.
Yeah.
Some people think it's money, some people think it's fame. It's the passion gets you down the yellow brick road. Yeah. Erika, you've been terrific. We've loved chatting with you, and congratulations on all of your successes.
Thank you. It's been great to be here.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us here from the Baker Center. We'll see you next time.